After yesterday's very positive quarterback performance in training camp practice, at least for one quarterback, they kind of both came back down to earth in a big way here on Saturday. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you all for tuning in and making us your first listen of this evening. This is your daily podcast covering your Indianapolis Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off of your first purchase. Hello, everyone. My name is Zach Hicks, your resident film nerd of HorseshoeHuddle.com, and my partner, Jake Arthur, is the credentialed. What shoe should we go with today, Jake? Like, what shoe? New Balance?
Right. I'm barefoot right now. Today I was wearing boat shoes. So.
Okay, boat shoes. Our credentialed boat shoes on the ground for the site over there at training camp. He was there, despite it being a later practice on a Saturday. He was there working for you guys, giving all the coverage here of Colts training camp. So again, we're going to do our typical coverage here. We're going to talk quarterbacks. We're going to talk offense, talk defense. Before we get into the quarterbacks, though, Jake, we have some injury updates and some guys missing practice. Zaire Franklin's still out with his injury. We're going to keep giving you guys that update until he's back on the field. Kenny Moore also missed practice today, I believe. I saw that out there with a sore knee. Shane Steichen did mention that he's not too concerned about the long-term aspect of that injury, but we shall see. Older players, I think you just need to be safe with them, in my opinion, when it comes to them. And then we got some news on our offensive tackle that has been missing. Jack Wilson, I believe his name is, right, Jake? Yeah. Jack Wilson has been out the last couple of days with a pec injury. The Colts did work out like 5 offensive tackles as well today, it looked like. I saw an Aaron Wilson report about that on the NFL transaction wire, so that probably explains where our 7-foot beast has been the last couple of days, Jake. But let's get into this quarterback competition. And it felt like today, I guess, Jake, that they were competing to see who wasn't the worst guy on the field when it came to throwing the football. Not a great day from either guy. To put some context there before I kick it to Jake, the 2 quarterbacks were working in the red zone today, where space is a lot tighter. You have to be so refined and so on it when it comes to who you're targeting, or you're going to throw an incomplete pass. So I think it is expected for the completion percentage to be a little bit lower and for things to look a little bit rocky, especially on day 4 of training camp. But Jake, you were there. You can give us the eye test. How did it look out there today?
Atrocious, my man. That's why the thumbnail there says boom or bust, because since it was the red zone, we did finally see our first touchdowns. But if it wasn't a touchdown, it was not great. Yeah. These guys combined to go, 9 of 28. Anthony was 4 of 14. DJ was 5 of 14. And yes, like in the red zone, it's inherently more difficult. The field is shrunk. Like you don't have the space to find guys as easily. But yeah, so being closer to the end zone, obviously they did put some points on the board. But there was a series at the end of practice where they were doing ball movement. I think they started back up at their own 20 or 30 yard line. So like a full field to go. And even then it was ugly. I don't think it was necessarily a timing thing like it was yesterday. It's just guys just not really on the same page. Like there was one where when they were in the later session, like with all the field to work with, Anthony Richardson let one loose to Pittman, and Pittman beat Jalen Jones badly. It could have been a huge long touchdown, but I believe Anthony threw the inside post, but Pittman broke towards the corner instead. And I mean, you never know who's at fault on that one. It did seem like Anthony was almost explaining it afterwards, so they just, regardless, weren't on the same page. There are a bunch of drops again today. Like drops are absolutely plaguing guys. And again, this defense they're going against is better than they are. Like this secondary is very, very good. I don't want to spend too much time on that yet because we'll talk a lot about the defense later. But yeah, they're outmatched by a better defense right now. That's a big part of it. Is it's not they're going against a bunch of pylons and tackling dummies out there. Like they're going against guys who are making real money. So that's a big part of it. But yeah, let's talk about some of the positives real quick. So Anthony put up 2 passing touchdowns during the 11 on 11s. He got Alec Pierce from about 20 yards out. That was a nice one. And then he had a quick little swing pass to the outside, just a kind of an outlet pass to DJ Giddens for within 5 yards, I think. But Giddens is not his first big play of camp, but his first touchdown. So that was nice for him to get that. And then 7 on 7s, Anthony also had a touchdown to Ashton Doolin. And then again, back in the 11 on 11s, had a rushing touchdown, I think from about 15 yards or so out. It looked like it was going to be a legitimate touchdown. We know what it looks like in the regular season, and it looked pretty good. As for Daniel, 1 passing touchdown, he also found Alec Pierce kind of on a crosser, kind of a shorter touchdown, I think within 5 to 10 yards. He had a rushing touchdown as well from about 10 yards. Both of these guys did throw interceptions. If you're grading the badness of the interceptions, I would say Jones's was probably worse. His came on the first session of 11 on 11s. He threw a ball to Doolin in the end zone, I'm guessing probably about 5 or so yards out, where Samuel Womack just outpositioned Doolin for the ball. Not the best throw, probably should have been more outside to where only Doolin could get it. Anthony's interception was from about 15 yards out. Anthony Gould and Juju Brents kind of collided at the goal line, and the ball popped up, and Rodney Thomas was there to intercept it in the end zone. So a nice little continuation of a good camp for Rodney Thomas. But yeah, not a great day overall for these guys. Very, very similar stat lines. It would be hard to say one of them did better than the other, because with overall performances like that, I don't think either of them get the title of that. So yeah, they came back down to earth after yesterday's, we'll say, efficient performance, because both of them had great completion percentages, at least yesterday. And, we all declared that it was Anthony's best day of camp yesterday. So yeah, they both turned back into pumpkins today.
Yeah, more of what we kind of expected, I guess, coming into camp. But one thing I did want to add context to, Jake, is when it came to a lot of these misses, like say in the red zone, for instance, were a lot of these on like shorter, like check down routes where they were just sailing stuff or like very inaccurate, or were they at least pushing the ball into the end zone, testing tight windows, and that's where the pass breakups were really coming?
Yeah, it was a lot of contested stuff where the defensive backs were just in good position, or the timing wasn't good enough and they were able to get to the catch point in time to bat it away. There was only like a couple of them where it got sailed out of the back of the end zone, where it wasn't like a blatant throwaway. I think Jones and Richardson each had one of those. So the accuracy wasn't atrocious. They were just not on the same page. And again, the timing wasn't quite good enough so that the defensive backs were able to get there. That wasn't the biggest problem. Again, like the biggest part of it is that you're in the red zone and space is just cramped. But they're learning these defensive backs as well. Like, as much as they're learning the guys they're throwing to, they're also finding out more about the guys they're throwing against and what they can't do. And so guys like Cam Bynum and Charvarius Ward they're proving to be worth every nickel the Colts paid for them so far. Yeah. And so it's a work in progress. They finally have a day off tomorrow where they can kind of regroup and breathe and figure out, because a lot of the install has already been done, starting back in the spring. So they can kind of get a game plan together of like, okay, this is what's been working. This is what each of these quarterbacks likes. This is what we might want to ditch. So hopefully they can make some adjustments tomorrow on their day off, at least from the coaching staff. So we'll see. Monday the pads get on, and it could be a whole different ball game, starting next week. We'll see.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, they've been talking about this super physical training camp that's coming with pads coming on next week. I think that's when that will really kick off. But I do want to just, again, talk more about the context here real quick before we kick it to our second segment. Yeah, like when we're talking red zone, I think there are some warning things you can look at in terms of like if they're sailing passes, if they're being timid and coming back to checkdowns and still missing those checkdowns. But I'm fine with them on day 4 of training camp, pushing some windows, pushing some boundaries, and testing these defensive backs in the red zone. And it's not going to lead to great numbers, obviously, in training camp. It's not going to lead to great eye test either. But that's what training camp is for. It's for pushing the boundary a little bit. I mean, you look across the league. I saw plenty of interceptions from quarterbacks across the league. It goes more under a microscope here with this Colts team because we already had concerns about these two quarterbacks coming into training camp. So again, it's training camp. We can't get too high or too low on any singular performance or any just overall performance either, because it's still just kind of training camp. These guys are getting their legs under them, but it is good information to add regardless. Coming up, guys, though, we talked about the quarterbacks on offense. Let's talk about the rest of the players on offense and how Alec Pierce is continuing his dominant camp from last year, carrying it over to this season, and he just looks like the same old Alec Pierce from last year.
Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize that you want to be in the stands. We've all had that feeling before. But that's exactly where Gametime comes in, because it's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress, which allows you to be a little bit spontaneous. So with the money that you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes it possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple as well, because prices on the app actually drop the closer that you get to the first pitch. And they've got their incredible last-minute deals. They've got their clear seat views so you know what to expect when you get there. Plus, the lowest price guarantee means that you don't have to feel guilty that you could have found a better deal somewhere else, because you can't. Gametime is the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, making it easy to browse the app for exciting upcoming MLB games, whether you like to go out and see the Reds, Cubs, White Sox, even the Indians here in town in Indy. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, so obviously the focal point of what we talk about offensively is the quarterbacks every day, especially with a quarterback battle, obviously, duh. But I feel like today there is more residual offensive stuff to talk about outside of those two guys. So we've been pinning a lot on the quarterback so far. Those numbers, obviously, like no matter how you look at it, it comes back to them always. But there's just not a ton of positivity coming from who they're throwing the ball to. So number one, the guy who has been consistent the whole time and is actually standing out is Alec Pierce, which we'll get to in a second, but he is like dragging this receiver core along. Michael Pittman Jr. has done some nice things, but he's going up against Charvarius Ward every day, and it kind of shows. Those two have had some pretty good battles so far. Josh Downs looked, normal his first couple days, but a lot of drops these last 2 days. Very, very uncharacteristic. I'm not worried about him. Everyone is entitled to have a slump occasionally, and we've seen 2 years of him being nothing but arguably the best pass catcher on the Colts. A.D. Mitchell, though, that's where I'm starting to get a little because we have seen him have good off seasons 2 years in a row. Last year, obviously, spring A.D. Mitchell was all the buzz. And then you get into summer, start up kind of slow, but then once you got into the one-on-ones and all this stuff, he started to kind of blossom a bit. Made some plays in the spring again this year. But he has been, I wouldn't even say silent this summer, because it's been obvious that he's struggling. He's dropping stuff. He's been slipping on the field. The 50-50 balls coming his way, he's not coming down with. So it's not panic button time, but I do seriously question, like, if the light's not coming on now, when is it going to? Because you're not going to get into the regular season, get 40, 50 snaps a game. You're going to get 10 or 15 maybe, just like last year, because they've got to have the guys out there that are making the plays. So where is this development going to come from? Because right now it's been rough. And, there was a play during one-on-ones today where Daniel Jones threw him. They were on the wrong page. I think Daniel threw the ball, again, kind of a post when AD was thinking corner route. So it obviously went incomplete, and you could see AD really frustrated and saying, you got to throw that outside, and then went over and talked to Anthony, and then he talked to Reggie Wayne. And then later on in 11-on-11s, he drops 2 in a row from Jones. Like, very right there, catchable balls. So it's just not going super well right now. Again, we just finished the first week, so there's a lot of time left. But it's certainly not the start to the summer you would have hoped to see from a guy who had a lot riding on this.
Yeah. And again, I think it kind of comes back to the Anthony Richardson, Daniel Jones aspect of it, where it's like, with those guys, our expectations for training camp were already like concerned. We were already concerned about those guys coming in. So every mistake and every bad moment or just a bad stretch for those guys feels indicative of what we thought coming into camp. So AD Mitchell is another player. We're coming into this camp. We were thinking like, look, he needs to turn it on in year 2 because there were some good things as a rookie, but for the most part, it was a struggling rookie season and it just wasn't good enough from him. So now when we're seeing some struggles in the summer aspect, it just, extrapolates to this huge issue because of what I'm not saying that's what you're bringing it up to be here, Jake, but it is still summer camp. It's still training camp. I still want to see how he looks on the actual field and if he can get there. But because we have the concerns from his rookie season, these feel a lot more concerning. Where like a Josh Downs, you and I can both agree, we're not remotely concerned about him. It's like, okay, he's dropped a couple passes in training camp, but this is a guy with the 5th most receiving yards for a Colts player through his first 2 seasons.
And the most receptions.
Yeah, most receptions, whatever it is. Like, we have no concerns about Josh Downs because we know he's a gamer, but because Mitchell already had those concerns coming into the summer, it just makes it feel so much worse. So, yeah, hopefully he can just get his confidence back. I think that's one of the biggest things with him is just confidence. So hopefully, he can catch a couple balls here in the next couple of days of practice, and that can lead to some good things. But I did want to talk a little bit more about Alec Pierce, and then we'll get to some tight ends and offensive line, because Alec Pierce has been on a heater for the last, year and a half now at this point. If we're counting this summer all the way to last summer and last season, Alec Pierce has hit this new level of wide receiver that we just didn't see this first couple years in the NFL. He's really hit his stride. He was asked after practice by a lot of beat report. Do you know who asked the question there, Jake? I want to give proper credit there.
Which
the contract for Alec Pierce?
It was Joel.
Okay, so Joel Erickson over at the Indy Star asked about Alec Pierce's upcoming potential contract with the Colts or, free agency after this upcoming season. He deferred mostly to his agents and kind of said that he expects to play out this season. I think there is still a chance that he could be back with the Colts after this year, but regardless if it's long-term with the Colts or long-term anywhere else, Alec Pierce is really hitting his stride and turning into the receiver we all thought he could be. So it's always great to see that with a player. And it gives you hope for a guy like AD Mitchell that maybe after a couple of years of just whatever it is, he can hit his stride like Alec Pierce was able to. So some good things there from Pierce, and I'm glad that he's still establishing himself as that guy. When we look at the tight end room, Jake, or offensive line, any other notable things? I know your boy Mo Cox had a pretty big catch today from Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, so outside of the touchdowns, I think the best passing play of the day was, Anthony finding Mo up the left seam for easily beyond, 20, maybe 30 yards. That was a good play. One where Mo just, went back, kind of snared it, and was able to kind of pivot himself back to keep moving along. So that was a good one. You see those with Anthony a lot, like threading a needle when he's kind of off balance, or he's definitely, he's not squared up, and he can get those balls, especially throwing kind of across his body a little bit, going to his left. Sometimes they're atrocious, but sometimes he can throw a dart like he did with Pittman the other day.
Well, and his seam throws are really good too.
Yes.
So that's honestly one of the strongest areas of his game is throwing up the seams to a tight end. Yeah. Now they have, Mo was getting them occasionally, but now they have Tyler Warren, who's going to be more consistent with that.
And yesterday we talked about, Tyler had a big day, but it was a lot of like outlet stuff and just security blanket short stuff. I did notice him getting out deeper in his routes today. They didn't really connect. There was a couple instances where Anthony was trying to make some layered throws, but like the receivers were too close together. And I think everyone was just a little discombobulated. The throw wasn't necessarily there. The route runners probably weren't exactly where they needed to be either. They're working on it, but we always knew they were going to try and get him more involved a little bit downfield. I wanted to shout out the running backs. We don't really get to do that a lot without the pads on. But Jonathan Taylor, Tyler Goodson, and DJ Giddens all had what I would have figured to be legitimate touchdowns today. Giddens had that short one from Anthony Richardson on a reception. And then Jonathan Taylor had probably about 15 yards along the left side. And then Goodson, kind of something similar, but I think it was more from about 5 or 10 yards. So good on those guys. And we're not going to the next segment without our daily Riley Leonard highlight. Because this one wasn't like an highlight or a not top play. This was legitimate. So in the red zone, he gets his turn with the third team. I think it was probably from about 15 yards out. But he hit Laquan Treadwell with a dart, like perfectly, like, because like when you're back there, you want to put it up a bit so the receiver can get it like up around the goalpost, and perfect. You know, he threw a dart right to him, and they came away. We know Laquan Treadwell is going to feast on the second and third team defensive backs every chance he can get. So that's a good connection. Those two have now had at least 2 or 3 highlight plays together through this first week. So I think Leonard is finding his guy.
You know, Riley Leonard to Laquan Treadwell is like when the varsity team is scrimmaging against the freshmen or whatever, and that varsity quarterback is just throwing to his number one receiver all the time. It's like, these freshmen can't stop it, man. Like, come on, let's stop here. But real quick, before we get to our final segment, guys, I do want to say that we haven't talked much about the offensive line this summer. That's because the pads have not been on yet. We will be talking a lot more about the center battle next week when the pads are on. That'll be a big part of this show going forward until the Colts name a starter there. But coming up, we're going to talk about this defense and how this back seven is looking pretty good. Even without their all-pro linebacker, this back seven has been all over the place in camp so far.
This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. Fantasy football is back, so fire up the group chat, get your draft board ready, and buckle up for a season filled with breakouts, busts, and all the overreactions that we all live for. It's going down on Yahoo Fantasy. This year, Zach and I are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. For me, I've had at least a few Yahoo leagues that I've been in for about a decade or more. I've won them all. That's why I want to stay in them. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days, giving you more ways to play, more ways to draft, and more ways to win. And it all begins on August 4th. Stay tuned to get started by creating or joining a Yahoo Fantasy Football League at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. That's yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. And let's make this fantasy season the best one yet. Welcome back, everydayers. We are talking day 4 of Colts training camp. We've got through the quarterbacks and the offense, but now we're going to talk about the defensive side of the ball, because for the 4th day in a row, it is the one that has imposed its will, and it has made a lot of plays. So let's start with early on. It was very obvious that the defensive front was generating pressure. Jones and Anthony Richardson were both kind of having to shuffle a bit to the outside, and they had stuff coming at them right up front. So they had to get out of the pocket. They had to buy time, and it obviously, as we told you, did not work very well. So the defensive front was clicking, but these linebackers, I think it's kind of creating an interesting problem. So Cam McGrone was Zaire Franklin again today, but we also saw a ton of Joe Bacci, like we've become accustomed to. And I'm gonna have my Shaq moment here, where I gotta apologize to Joe Bacci, because I was not familiar with his game. You know what I mean? Like, this guy, number one, he looks like a classic, just like thumping in the box linebacker, just the short, stocky white linebacker. You assume he can really just only run, go against the run. The guy has made plays in the passing game like every day, going back to OTAs and minicamp. He had a really athletic play today where I think it was Jones threw it up high in the back corner of the end zone to Tyler Warren, and it felt like Bacci jumped up 10 feet in the air and knocked it away, which he did to Warren back in the spring as well. So he had a couple pass breakups today. Cam McGrone did as well. So it's not just these high-priced defensive backs that are making the plays. It's these linebackers who, unfortunately, aren't even probably going to play once Zaire Franklin is back. So it kind of creates a thing where it's like, all right, Zaire, like, you got kind of big shoes to fill now, even though you're going back into your own spot, because these placeholders kind of put it on in the passing game.
This leads to my big question here, Jake. As someone like you who You didn't give a lot of attention to this linebacker room all off season. You barely talked about it on this show, and that's becoming our inside joke.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, our inside joke on this show is how much Jake brought up the linebacker room all off season. It was a big concern for him. And a big question I have for you now is, look, it's still early in training camp. It's week 1. You can't change entire opinions off of 1 week of training camp. But from what you saw from Cameron McGrone and Joe Bocci so far, are you at least feeling a little bit better about that room?
In the passing game, but I am still a human who watched how the beginning of last season went against the run.
Yeah.
And I think the most legitimate concerns on this defense are still against the run.
Right.
So that's great that you are ball hawks against the pass, but like what happens when an I formation team comes and like slams you right in the mouth in the run game and you give up 200 yards again? Like,
yeah.
I like that the Colts have some guys who can excel in the passing game now. That's awesome. But I can't crown anybody yet, especially since they haven't even had pads on yet. They're checking every box that they should right now, for sure. But we still have so much to see. And I think there's like a handful of guys who are really going to stand out in the preseason, especially these guys who play such physical positions like linebacker. And there's a couple safeties I've been waiting to see make some things happen too that we just haven't seen yet because the bullets aren't really flying and it's not a preseason game yet. But yeah, I definitely want to see what these linebackers do against the run too.
Yeah, no, for sure. You're very fair for that. I just will say with these linebackers, I've not seen many good coverage backers in Indy in my time covering this team. Like if Shaquille Leonard is the second best one, and look, Shaquille Leonard got a lot of interceptions, but in terms of his zone integrity and his zone eyes, they weren't that great. You know,
he was out in space. He could
out in space and just knowing his assignment. He struggled there. He is the second best one I've seen in my time with Indy. Then the bar is pretty low. So getting guys like Bocci and McGrone, they can just be good coverage guys. I will take it. I haven't seen many in my time with the Colts. But let's get back to this defensive backfield, Jake, where we're looking at, Charvarius Ward, another big day. I heard a lot of praise for Cameron Bynum. He picked off a stout quarterback today and took it back. I mean, I heard about his pick six against a former UNLV quarterback in practice here. I heard about that one. And then again, Juju Brents had a nice tip too, like Sam Womack interception. Like, it's crazy to talk about a Colts cornerback room and safety room being like strengths of the team. I know it's training camp, but we're not projecting a Joe Bocci to the regular season here when he's never done it. We're talking about Charvarius Ward, who's a former All-Pro, Cameron Bynum, who was a free safety for like a top 3 defense in football last year. Talking about Juju Brents, a top 50 pick. Sam Womack started a lot of games last year. Like these are guys we've seen in actual regular season play, and now we're just seeing it again in the summer here with this new defense with Lou Anarumo. So I think this is a position where we can really get excited. And yes, you have to say it's against these quarterbacks who no one's really excited about, but like, I still think there's good reason to be excited about this secondary and how they're performing so far.
No, I think it's legit. Like you can see certain guys like Charvarius Ward is good. Like,
yeah,
he's very, very good. Like I'm getting the same vibes I got when I watched like Stephon Gilmore. Like Xavier Rhodes had his moment. I feel like he's a better game player than he is practice player. But like just watching practice, I feel like I'm watching a Stephon Gilmore level player when I watch Ward. Like it's legit. And again, Bynum is just putting a stamp on the things we already knew about him, which is he's a quick, instinctive guy that will aggressively go for the ball. And we keep seeing him, make diving pass breakups. And like the guy is playing the ball and he's not letting it get past him. So, I mean, he's doing his part. And the cheeky joke you were referring to, if you didn't already see it. So Shane Steichen and the Colts coaching staff are trying to make things weird for the Colts. They're trying to put them in like suddenly different situations and they're throwing surprises at them to see how they react. Well, one of them was they wanted to get the offense an opportunity to get on the field like right after a turnover, and they can't predict a turnover. So Shane Steichen went out and just basically threw an arm punt to Cam Bynum. Bynum and the defense went and celebrated and everything. And it was like, boom, offense, what are you going to do right now? What is your response to this type of thing? So it's fun. Like this is definitely like the weirdness and the unpredictability that Shane Steichen alluded to earlier. Today was that day. Like they mixed up a lot of lineups. I didn't even bother reporting lineups today because they intentionally were chaotic. But no, you're also seeing like the lower level guys, other than the guys making the big money that you expect to be performing well. Rodney Thomas has had a really good camp. Got an interception off of a tip earlier. I mentioned that one. Juju Brents was involved in that tip. He had a pass breakup during one-on-ones that was really good. Ward, going back to him, not done talking about him yet. He's done a really good job kind of locking up Michael Pittman Jr. Had an interception in the one-on-ones while covering Jr. that was thrown by Anthony. Let's see. Bynum Juju is good. Womack had the interception. The linebackers did a good job. So yeah, it's not just the guys you expect to be performing well and the guys who are making the big money. It's the ones who you didn't necessarily always want to see on the field last year. Guys like Womack and Thomas and even Juju at times were much maligned because they were either banged up or they had started to give up big plays. But it's a full team effort. Like, these guys are taking full advantage of what's happening in front of them, and they're making plays happen. This defense, I'm pretty bullish on them. The secondary so far is as good as we were hoping.
Yeah, and next week will be the real test with this defense, because my big concern is that front four, I guess. You can count the linebackers, I guess, in run defense. I'm fine with them in pass coverage, but more in run defense, I'm a little nervous. So when that front four is out there with the pads on, how good do they look? How deep do they look? That's really where we will see how good this defense can really be.
You'll like this. At one point there in the red zone drills, the defense had a 5-man line. It was a heavy line.
Yeah, bare front, baby.
I think it was Ebicom and Latu on the ends, and then it was Buck, Grover, and Gallimore in the middle. I was like, Zach would like this a lot.
Oh, yeah.
they had the bare front going.
Oh, yeah. I love me some Lou Anarumo, man. Real quick, though, Jake, before we get out of here tonight, give me my nerdy special teams coverage.
Yes,
this is what I wait for all 30 minutes of this show. Give me my special teams coverage. These are the guys who are going to make the team because they are doing the dirty work that no one talks about. Don't talk about the kickers today. Don't give me any kicker stuff. Give me the real special teams juice.
Yeah, they didn't kick, so that's lucky for you. So they did more punt stuff. Daniel Scott and Rodney Thomas were, again, the punt protectors. The vast majority of that went to Daniel Scott, which, again, I don't think the casual fan is going to care about that, but that's a very, very important spot to Brian Mason. That matters. I would definitely mentally bookmark that. Ashton Doolin and Tyler Goodson as the gunners. Same thing. We don't really expect Tyler Goodson to make it, but if that's your first team gunner with Ashton Doolin, I mean, a lot of guys are getting run there, but like repetitively, this is your first team gunners right there. And then Anthony Gould and can't even think of, I don't know, the little receiver number 3, Coleman Owen. That's it.
Yeah.
That was the return guys today. So pretty much a repeat of yesterday, which I think is telling, because the more you see guys in the same role, the more that's what the coaches are thinking. So yeah, that's your nerdy special teams update of the day. They did not kick. We'll maybe have to see that on Monday.
Love it. This is purely for me here at the very end. I don't know if you guys are still listening to that part, but that's all for me. Thank you so much, Jake. And I will say this, for anyone trying to predict this Colts 53-man roster, you want to put a little note by Daniel Scott and Tyler Goodson after hearing this kind of stuff, because when it comes down to those last 4, 5, 6 guys that make the team, this is what separates players. This is why Ashton Doolin has been on the team for so long and had so many opportunities to now be a staple of the team. Tyler Goodson and Daniel Scott are now becoming those type of guys for the team.
And when it comes to Goodson, he's not just the gunner. He's also like your backup kickoff returner, because Coleman Owen's not going to make the team.
Right.
So Goodson is one of the guys they know can be a pass catching back. They know he can return kicks. And now they feel decent about him being a gunner as well. So the more you can do, it's probably going to earn you a spot on the roster.
Love it. I'm going to dish my praise to Tyler Goodson again for that. It's just fantastic work. And that's how you stick in this league. I mean, Grant Stewart just got a big contract with not big, but a decent contract with the Lions off of doing that for years with the Colts. It's just how you do this stuff here. But that's all we have for today, guys. I do want to remind you guys that the Locked On NFL Top 100 is here, voted on by the NFL host of Locked On Podcast Network. Our Top 100 is formed by experts that cover these teams and players every single day. Find the full list on Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. If you guys want to become a Locked On Colts insider and chat with us directly and get that insider scoop, follow the link in our show notes. And if you don't already, make sure you're following at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks 2, all on socials. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube wherever you get your podcast. We love your guys' ratings, views, and we'll catch you guys back here Monday afternoon.